Hey y'all, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about something called Whitespace Convention. Now, we've already talked about conventions before. If you recall in a previous video, we said conventions are things that people typically do for a certain reason. For example, when you first meet someone, you typically introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Mr. Wong. What's your name? There are many other conventions, both socially and maybe other things we do in a day-to-day life that are conventions. Today, we're going to be talking about a whitespace convention. Now, you're also going to notice at the bottom something called special topics. So what exactly are special topics? Well, the way I kind of loosely define it is that it's not part of the official APCSA curriculum. What I mean by that is you won't typically be tested or need to know it to get a good grade. However, it's important to know and to practice to make you a better programmer. Some other special topics are a little out of place. For example, something might be taught in the official curriculum guide in Unit 2, but I might think it's more appropriate to introduce it earlier on in, say, Unit 1 with a little bit of scaffolding. Some other units might be quickly glossed over because I think they're better covered later on in, say, Unit 7. So that's a brief overview of what special topics are. It's a very loose definition, but they're essentially things that I thought belong in a special category. All right, so let's go ahead and get onto whitespace conventions. So we're going to talk about space and tab whitespace conventions. Let's go ahead and read this. Have you ever tried to read a run-on sentence like this that just never seems to stop and continues to go on and on and on, and it gets really hard to read because the writer just didn't want to use the conventional commas and periods and semicolons, but technically the sentence still works? All right, I couldn't make it all the way there without breathing, but here's a breath. Or what about something like this, where the writer intentionally does not use any spaces or tabs or anything to differentiate between one word and the other, like, oh my goodness, my English teacher must detest me for writing something like this and hurting their poor eyes. Now, we could actually read that, right? We could actually understand that, but it's really hard to read. And I'm sure if you turn this in as an essay or something like that, with no spaces at all, with everything combined all together, your teacher or whoever you're turning this into probably wouldn't be too happy, right? So by conventions, we use space, tabs, punctuation, all of these things. Maybe not tabs, but spaces, maybe tabs for beginning of a paragraph, punctuation, all these things to help the reader read what we're writing. So just as we have human language conventions, right, spaces, punctuation, all that stuff, we have similar ones in programming. They are the space and a tab, okay? So when we indent, we typically use 4 spaces. Now, some places you might use 5. I typically prefer 4 spaces. And also, typically you have an opening brace at the end of the same line. This is my personal convention. I just like it because it saves space when you're visually looking at things going down. So looking at the previous example from yesterday, you're going to notice that we have indentions right here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces right there. Or what we could do is a single tab. Okay. Now you're going to see that if I was to put this all on one line, that's my code. Okay. And you're going to see if I take out these spaces and I run it, it still works. It still prints hi there. And yeah, everything works. But what if I was to ask you, hey, can you edit your code? I want you to add another print statement. I want you to add 20 more print statements. I want you to add a print statement between number 9 and 10 print statements. Oh, you have an error in your code. Well, good luck trying to find the error because everything's on line 1. So the error message, it won't really help you. It'll just say error on line 1. Okay? And as you can see visually, this is really hard to read and see what exactly is happening. So we follow convention. Okay? The 4 spaces right there, and typically 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces whenever something is inside of something else. Okay. Notice also how I have that opening brace at the end of the line and the opening brace at the end of the line. Now, what you might see a lot of times is you might see this opening brace right here. This is perfectly valid. Many people prefer this convention. This is okay to use as well. Me personally, I think typically I'm trying to save vertical space, whether it's I'm grading something and I have something on one side of my screen, something on another side of my screen. I like to do it this way. It saves a little bit of space. And just to confirm it still works, there we go. All right, so that's the space in a tab, all right? So 4 spaces of indentation, that's equivalent to a tab, and opening brace at the end of the same line. If you're interested in reading more about this, I've provided 3 links, one by Cornell, and they have a Java style document essentially. Once again, what I consider the founders are the ones that kind of sell Java, Oracle. They have code conventions and what they call Whitespace. Definitely give that a read. And Google has their own style guide. You can go ahead and give that a read also. And one last thing is at the bottom, I'm not sure if you quite understand this comic. I didn't either, but it's an XKCD comic. And we have 2 parties. The left party is saying there should be 2 spaces after a period. And this one says there should be 1 space after a period. And this one's saying a line break after every sentence. You can search this up, xkcd.com/1285, and you can read about this argument over the convention of how many spaces or whether you should add a line break after every sentence. All right, thank you for watching this video. I hope this kind of convinced you to please use good Whitespace convention. All right, it not only saves your eyes in the long run, it saves your poor teacher's eyes, it saves me, Mr. Wong's eyes, and it just makes everything easier to code and debug. All right, I'll see you in the next video.